Breaking right now, as we've been telling you, the Durham report about to be released. Fox Digital got their hands on a copy of it through a member of Congress, and Andy McCarthy has been looking it over. Andy, good to have you with us. This is the report on the FBI's investigation of President Trump and potential ties to Russia. Former federal prosecutor Andy McCarthy joins us now. Hi, Andy. What are you seeing
Hi,
here?
Martha. Well, it looks like about what you'd expect if you followed this story closely over the last number of years. But what Durham is concluding, mainly the target of the investigation, it appears on the basis of what we've been able to see so far, is the FBI in particular, which ran the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. That was the code name that they had for this. What he's saying is that they lacked fidelity to the strict obligations of law enforcement, that they basically took information that was politically motivated from obviously politically motivated sources. It's clear he's talking there about the Clinton campaign, that they didn't vet it, they didn't corroborate it. They went to the FISA court and swore to it under oath. And even after it emerged over time that the information that they had presented to the court was not accurate, they not only didn't go back to the court and correct it, they doubled down and continued to get new surveillance warrants.
So you're saying it basically adds up to the reporting that we've had over the last several years, and you have reported on and talked about throughout the course of this. And it took years to get this report, really, Andy. So, I mean, that's one of the big questions. What took so long, and what's the impact of this report?
Yeah, I've always suspected, Martha, that what would frustrate this investigation and what would make it take so long is it seemed to me that American intelligence agencies and also foreign intelligence agencies were pervasively involved in this. And it was always going to be very difficult for Durham to get to the bottom of that, because even if there was smoking gun information there, and I don't know if there was or there wasn't, I do know that what they're saying is this 300-page report is unclassified. There's apparently a 29-page classified annex that's attached to it, but mainly what we're getting is an unclassified report. That suggests to me that no matter what was there, the intelligence relationships that exist between American intelligence services and their foreign counterparts are too important to national security that they were going to be risked in order to be completely transparent about what happened and how this investigation got started.
I mean, it's really, it kind of blows you away, because really what we're hearing here is that everything that was suspected by many and reported on extensively, that there was an effort by the Clinton team to create and fabricate a tie between the Trump campaign team, and President Trump and Russia, and that they were hanging something over his head. It all goes back to this Steele dossier that we learned over time was fabricated, that they didn't have faith in it even at the time in many ways, but they kept using it over and over to keep prodding further and further into the Trump team and hanging all of this over their heads while they knew that they didn't have this connection that was substantial to Russia, or that was compromising them in any way. So now what? You know, I mean, now what, Andy?
Well, I think what the FBI would say is that the people who ran the investigation have all been removed from their.
Are we going to hear apologies from them?
I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Yeah. So where do in terms, you've got this weaponization investigation going on in Congress right now into exactly this, right? The weaponization of our intelligence agencies. You see in polling that people have lost faith in our intelligence agencies because they think that Lady Justice, is not blind when it comes to investigating people of different political backings. And then you've gotten all of this Biden investigation that's going on that shows $10 million that came in from China and from Romania and other countries. And that's, that's real money and potentially real influence. So what are people to make of all that, Andy?
Yeah, I think what you've just hit on, Martha, is the most important thing here. It's very interesting how this affected our electoral politics. But the thing that's always bothered me the most about this is that national security is the one area of the government where they have to be able to look you in the eye and say, you can trust us to wield these awesome powers. Because if you can't maintain secrecy, then you really can't protect the country. We don't give the FBI these powers because we think the FBI are great guys. We give them the powers because we need the country protected, and there are bad actors all over the world that are looking to harm Americans and American interests. And what I've always worried about is that if we get to the point, and what you've just summarized indicates, I think wisely, that we may be getting to that point. If we get to the point where we say we can't trust these guys, then what's going to happen is those powers are going to be, if not completely eliminated, they're going to be attrited or reduced. And that's not going to make the country safe. You know, we still have a country to protect, even if we have people in their stupidity who got themselves involved in a political campaign.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about Carter Page and George Stephanopoulos and people whose lives were altered by all of this. This is the Durham report, folks. It's pretty thick. It's a couple hundred pages, I believe, and this is what we've waited for years. We remember when Bill Barr designated John Durham and said, you know, you take this investigation on the outside, and everyone said that Durham was, you know, a straight-up guy who would do a good job. Then you had COVID hit, so it took forever to get through this. And here we have it. You know, just scrolling through it, I see the name Kevin Kleinsmith, and I think he's one of the only people who was actually charged in this for changing a document about whether or not Carter Page was an asset, and they knew it. So will anyone else see justice or accountability based on this, Andy?
You know, Martha, I don't think Kleinsmith got much justice or accountability. As you say, he not only changed a document, that was a document that was being submitted to the FISA court by the FBI under oath. And he basically got a slap on the wrist from the court. And what I also imagine you'll hear over the next few days from critics of this investigation, critics of Barr, critics of Durham, is that, you know, he tried these two guys, Michael Sussman and then one other guy who was a source of the Steele dossier, and they got acquitted. Yeah. And I think, you know, a large part of the reason they got acquitted was because the theory of the cases was that these lies duped the FBI, and it was going to be very hard to convince a jury of that when it seemed like the FBI was in on it. So, you know, there'll be a lot of questions about why he brought those cases, because I think he brought them in good faith. I think these people did make false statements. But the thing is, the acquittals in those cases are going to be used to undermine his report, no matter how strong the report is.
No, you're so right. And, you know, I'm looking at the headlines that are flashing across some of the other channels. And CNN says that the report concludes that the FBI never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe. And, Andy, right. I'm thinking about some of the breathless coverage that we watched. I'm thinking about John Clapper, Brennan, all saying, oh, the big indictments are coming because President Trump is so deeply entrenched and they're holding stuff over him in Russia because of the deals that were made during his campaign, right? The Pulitzer Prizes that were given for the coverage of this story. And this report, Office of the Attorney General, says that the FBI, based on what they found, had no credence to launch this investigation, Andy.
Yeah, but Martha, what are we to make of the intelligence community? You know, we have this episode, and then we have the letter that the 51 former intelligence agents, including some of the people that you just mentioned, signed off on. They say that the Hunter Biden laptop, the data that the New York Post reported on, they say that bore the classic earmarks of a Russian or Soviet intelligence operation. There's not a shred of evidence that was true. It was completely
Andy, we know now
baseless.
they don't have any idea what a Russian intelligence operation looks like, even though they told us that they did, because they dug into this for the same reason, right? Because they were so smart about this stuff. And I also think you can't underestimate the importance of, you know, what some people call Trump derangement syndrome that took over in these agencies and continued to take over even when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop, Andy.
Yeah, well, the scandalous thing here is that I think we now know, and the history of this that'll be written, is that the intelligence and law enforcement apparatus of the government was put in the service of the politics of one party in connection not only with an election, but when that failed, it was sustained for another 2 years in order to hamstring a sitting United States president. Who, no matter what you think of him, was the elected president that needed to govern the United States. And they did this for partisan reasons. You know, there's bad and worse here. Maybe you're right that they wouldn't know, you know, Russian disinformation if it hit them over the head like a hammer.
Well, the only reason I say that, Andy, is because we have two very good examples now, right?
Yeah, no.
We have this Russian collusion, hundreds of pages say the FBI never should have started this investigation. Then we have 51 former CIA and intelligence officials saying, you know, that Hunter Biden's laptop is just a big Russian disinformation thing. No, actually, it's Hunter Biden's laptop, and he never even said it wasn't.
Yeah, but my point, Martha, is that what if the truth is worse? What if they do know what an influence operation is, but they're just lying about it? And if you can't trust them, then we can't trust them to wield those powers. And it's not like if we take those powers away, it's going to be fine because we'll be safe. We need those powers to protect the country. So when they rolled the dice for partisan reasons, what they put in the middle of the table were these powers that we need to protect the United States.
You know, and you also, I'm thinking of Peter Strzok. Remember how he said that he could smell Trump support at the Walmart and the back and forth, we will stop him. It appears, based on the evidence that we've seen over all these years, that they felt like they had this higher calling to block this person who had been elected president of the United States, and that anything that you had to do to keep him from being successful was okay, because they were going to protect us from something that they thought was dangerous. And now it turns out that they had no hard evidence. And as you take it one step further, perhaps it was intentionally to misdirect how people felt about it. The other thing is, Andy, that occurs to me is the impact on the presidency, right? And on the president himself of being under this for all of that time, right? Having this hanging over his head while he was president all this time. Where does he go to get that time back or that opportunity back that he might have had?
Well, he doesn't get it back. And, you know, Martha, it's a timely point, because the thing that's going on right now in front of our eyes is we have this scandal involving President Biden's family cashing in on his political influence. It's absolutely obvious that the Biden Justice Department cannot investigate the Biden administration. It has a profound conflict of interest. But the fact is, if you have a special counsel, special counsels are like the death knell of administrations. And I think that's the reason why they won't appoint one. And President Trump is probably exhibit one of that. That basically sat on him and the country for the first 2 years of his administration, made it very difficult to govern.
Yeah. And now he is running again, and we'll see where it all goes. Andy, thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.